What's poppin', my freeform renegades? You're tuned into the Freeform Network. Thanks for joining us for another fun episode of Freeform Radio. I'm your host, Noel, with my co-host, Daniel.
Yes, sir. Chilling over here, getting over a cold or whatever it was, but yeah, chilling.
And Andy.
It's all good post COVID, Andy. I'm here. I made it and ready to give my input to our hundreds of listeners.
Very, very good. Well, yeah, it's building every day, and it's another blessed day here in Chicago. So wherever you listeners are, we hope you're sitting cool and feeling good. And let's just jump right into it with Andy. So let's catch up with you, Andy. Looks like you've been looking into this Freedom Convoy and what it's all about. So what are your thoughts on that?
So what we're gonna talk about, everybody kind of knows it. I think this week it's on its third week. The Freedom Convoy over in Canada, and they're protesting some of the COOF mandates, and I don't know, man. It's I kind of get it, but I understand the protest. Shocked how
Well, for the
can,
listeners, why don't you give us the bullet points? What are they protesting, man?
they're protesting the vaccine mandates for them to work, and they're if you listen to some of the truckers and some of the Canadians up there, their suspension of what they're calling freedoms, kind of like here in America and like the rest of the world, but you really don't see that here in the American news coverage, like in France, Italy. They have massive protest against the mandates, even though they're completely opening up certain parts of Europe. Um, and here, usually here in North America and United States, we're like a month and a half behind what they do. And I know Trudeau, the prime minister, he started some mandates that will impact people who work there, about getting kind of like we did here with the nurses and the soldiers. So a bunch of hard working people, especially truckers, that get everything moving to your stores, and um, they decided to do this Freedom Convoy where they rolled up there with flatbeds and step decks, like big trailers, and they took over I don't want to say took over. They're protesting around the capital in Ottawa, and they're honking their horns. They're just protesting and saying that they don't believe they should be forced to do anything, with the COVID vaccine mandates. So that's the big one. Trudeau, I think on Friday, had a press conference, and he said that, okay, it's time for you guys to go home. We heard you. Like, if you don't leave, we're gonna start arresting people, and then you're gonna have criminal records. You're gonna get fines, and they're even talking about uh, bringing in the military. And also, I read that there's something at between Michigan and Canada. There's like this big bridge or border crossing, and I heard on the Canadian side they're protesting. They put another parked trucks. I don't want to say blockade, but they're blocking the entrance into Canada. And Biden's like really pressuring Trudeau to, you got to resolve this, because this is going to impact trade and supply chain and
Right,
you
like
know,
the Ford dealer,
yeah.
the Ford manufacturers, and whatnot.
So, and I know I heard some companies are might not going to ask for the mandates, or like a couple small companies, but the government is still really hasn't really announced anything on what they're going to do. So it's getting interesting, because I thought it was going to last like a week or two, but it's going on to its third week. So who knows how long this is going to last. And here in the United States, they're talking about doing something similar in the spring, depending how we're doing here, because we're starting we have some states that are fully open, no real mandates in some of the northern states and the East Coast. I know we're barely our governor here in Illinois says he's lifting everything. Well, not, I'm sorry, the mask mandate, which is gets everybody upset on the 28th, except schools, I believe, in certain areas. So it's going to be interesting to see. But getting back to the Freedom Convoy, so there's like a bunch of trucks just parked around the Capitol. And the other thing is GoFundMe. People were donating, to help because they need money to clean up, to get fuel. They have like porta potties and all this, and they seized for a while. GoFundMe like says we're not gonna give this money. We're gonna keep it and give it to other charities, which pissed off a lot of people. And they kind of rescinded that. And then there was another like type of crowdfunding application, and they said like they'll distribute the money, and I think the government just seized that money. We're talking about like $3 to $6 million.
Yeah, I dig it, man. I dig this protest. To me, so far it's peaceful. Nobody's out there kicking anybody's ass. Nobody's out there, doing anything kind of violent. This is how protests should be. Protests should be an assembly of people, talking about their issues that they're having. And I think stuff like this really impacts things because you're impacting trade, you're impacting goods, and right now there's a shortage all over the place for a bunch of stuff, man. You hear it all the time. There's shortages, and these trucks are the things that are going to alleviate those issues. And if they stop, then it just amplifies the shortages even more so. So I think this is a great way to really push your thoughts. Because it impacts everything globally. So I think it's good, and I kind of agree with it, man. I think people that want to get the vaccine, by all means, go get it. It's available. Go get it. If you do not want to get it, that's perfectly fine too. Don't get it. It's your risk that you're going to take for COVID or whatever other things that they're trying to push on.
Yeah, and like I'm looking, like I'm with you. Like any form of protest, it's a right here, and
well, I don't know if it's a right in Canada.
I
would assume so.
Well, that's what I mean. Any type of protest, it could be right away condemned as illegal because that's what they do. But they could do it, and before they start busting heads. But the reason this intrigued me, like you gotta read, like always, you gotta read between the lines. You gotta see how this is being covered. And I was thinking, like, how long before they start saying like, oh, these are just a bunch of racists, how the thing just morphs into like, let's get people to get pissed off at them, even though what I've read, a lot of majority of Canadians support it. I mean, there's some that don't like it, which of course who wouldn't, especially if it's in your home area or hometown. It might impact you more than somebody else, but a lot of people support it. And I'm just waiting to see right now how the media is going to spin this and say like, oh yeah, they're a bunch of racists because Trudeau, I don't know how much you know about Trudeau. This is a prime minister that has been caught twice in blackface. So if anybody's a racist, it's this guy. And he kind of like apologized for it. And he said he only did it like, I should say that we know it once, and then he did it. And then another picture came out. So he's there's pictures twice that this has happened. So, kind of like, what they did with Joe Rogan with misinformation, and then like he's a racist. And so just to see, man, like you just got to keep and watch to see, like, and just whatever your input on it, let us know at ffnquestions@gmail.com, because this is stuff that you got to read. I know people are kind of have like COVID fatigue, and they're like, I'm tired of all this and shit. I want shit back to go to normal. But people are tired of it, man. People just they're tired of all this BS from the last 2 years, and with the mask and the vaccines, whatever your thoughts on it, but no one should be to me, like where we live, like nobody should be forced to take that if they don't want to, and like let them deal with the consequences of if they get it or not.
Oh
But I
yeah,
know a
for
lot of
sure.
people shit on that. They're saying they're being selfish because you're not protecting them or whatever. Like, but if you got it, if you have it, why you worried about if they have it or not? So where do what you got to do. But yeah, to me, that's my whole thing with it, and I'm gonna keep an eye on it because this stuff like I like how it morphs into just how it gets portrayed in the media because it all started like we all kind of knew it was bullshit, and then now you read about it and the fact checkers and all that bullshit is just like this shit's unreal, man. Like I can't deal with that no more, man. Like with Snopes and all these other motherfuckers because it's all a bunch of bullshit.
Right. Oh, for sure.
But that's all the time I got. Let us know what you guys think about it, and let me go to Danny here. I see you watched Old Henry. I think it was highly recommended by somebody in the and Freeform Network here, Danny. What refresh my memory? What's it about?
Yeah, I mean, Noel talked about it. He's the one that kind of pushed me onto it, and I'm not gonna go over it too much, but I watched it and it was pretty good. I dug it. It had a really surprise ending. I would even spoil it, but I googled it before I started, and the movie just came out last year, so I don't want to spoil it right away.
I think you'll be fine.
I think if it was like 5 years old kind of thing, then I'd be like, all right, man, you had time to watch it. But it was a cool twist at the end. I dig Western movies. It was a little slowish in the middle, but really good movie. Alana liked it too. We dig westerns, and yeah, man, good kudos on Noel for finding that movie.
Yeah, dude, I came across it just randomly, and the cover, I was like, huh, let me check it out. And I don't watch too many westerns, but I have appreciated like the best of them. Like Good, Bad, and the Ugly, or there's a bunch of the Clint Eastwood movies that I liked, a few of the John Wayne ones as well. So anyway, I thought I'd give it a shot, and
A
yeah, you're
few.
right. The ending was crazy, man. I was like finding out who the guy really was, and
Yeah,
yeah, it's crazy.
yeah, I didn't expect it for sure, but I guess the next thing I wanted to kind of talk about, it's more my opinion or just a question. Um, I- we just finished today's, as of we're recording, today's the Super Bowl, and we just finished the last four teams battling to come to the Super Bowl a couple weeks ago, and they said that it was the best games that ever were aired all in one week. So people were really high and excited on it, and even the games before that, where they trimmed it down to four, people were selling those like those were the greatest games too. And I got to be honest, they were really good games. All of them were really good. The only thing that with all this like, oh, the best, the best, the best talk, it got me seeing things a little clearer, and I'm questioning if these big blowout leads, how they close it at the end in that fourth quarter, is because these teams keep playing this prevent defense in the fourth. Now, I don't know how much football people out there know, and I'm no football guru either. I was never a coach. I never really played, in high school or anything like that. So I'm not speaking like I'm some like huge guru in football, but I know a little bit. And to me, I need somebody to make me understand why they use prevent defense in the fourth. And just a quick prevent. What prevent is that the defense, typically in the fourth quarter, but you can play prevent whenever you want. They spread the safeties and the cornerbacks out like 30 yards, man. They go deep. And the whole concept is that teams will not get a big play on you. They might do a little dink and dunk where they'll get 6 yards, 8 yards, and they keep the offense in front of you. That's the thought behind prevent defense. But to me, what I find happens when you do this is that you leave so much open in the middle that these teams, especially with good quarterbacks, they just keep driving it. They keep eating yards, 8 yards, 8 yards, 10 yards, 6 yards, 8 yards, and they just keep driving. And it even opens up the run pass because if you could get past the linebackers, which are in the middle, then you could get a 12-yard run before the cornerbacks come down and stop the running back. So I know you don't really watch a lot of football, Noah. I don't know if you have any thoughts, but I know, Andy, you watch quite a bit. Can you explain this to me, or are you with me? I don't understand this prevent
It
defense
all
in the fourth.
depends when you run the prevent and the time. The big thing is the time, and then the other thing is how much you're up for. If you're up by like a touchdown or you're up by a field goal. So the whole point of that, you want them to dink and dunk in the middle, depending on how many times out they got, because you want to run that fucking clock. And it does hold you, depending where you're on the field. It does. It might lead to big yards, but the whole thing is you're gonna keep them in front of you, and you're gonna eat up the clock. That's what happened with the Mahomes, right? They fucking were just slinging it down the middle, and they got down there, but they ran out of time in that one game, right, against Cincinnati.
Right, and then there was one game where in like I think it was like in a minute or just barely over a minute, they scored like 21 points, and it's just like, dude, that is not right. Something is wrong. And now I understand what you're saying. I get it. You want to keep them in front of you, keep the clock moving, especially if they don't have timeouts or they only have one timeout or something like that. You want to keep them in front of you, but I think it needs to be reevaluated because offenses move so fast nowadays that they can march down the field. You saw this guy from Rogers, dude. He ran down the field. He had like 20 seconds on the clock, and he marched it down the field and got a touchdown. And it's just like, yeah, guys like that can do it. They don't need a ton of time.
I think what's going to happen is the NFL becomes more analytical and they look at more metrics. You're going to start seeing maybe that some of that change, especially with the right coach, because that's why you see they keep pushing all the analytic and the numbers and the metrics about when to go for 4th and 1. Like when you run it at this time or at this part of the field, like 60% of the time you get the first down. Like there's all this fucking metrics for it. And I think down the road, the defenses are going to start seeing that when they run certain prevent defenses or whatever scheme they're running, they're going to start seeing numbers skewed to you shouldn't do this and you should do that. It just takes one guy to do that. And if it works, the whole league is going to copy it. And there's coaches like McVay and some of those young coaches, like you're supposed to run the ball, right? Like run the ball when you're up by this and this, and they won't do it because they're fucking like, I'm a genius, and they start fucking throwing. Right. And, you know, the old Doug Buffon, 2 out of if 3 things happen when you throw the ball and 2 of them are bad. So like that whole mentality.
Like the possible outcomes.
Yeah. You have 3 outcomes and 2 of them are bad. So
right.
That whole thing is just like, that's why you see that AWS, those commercials and like percentages of like, it's 2 minutes left. They're up by like 4 touchdowns. Probability of win is like 98%. So I'm gonna want to know, when that 2%, when the fuck did that happen where someone came back from 4 touchdowns like with 2 minutes left? Like all that shit, I want to see how they're getting all those metrics.
I agree. I think analytics are going to play a bigger part of it because you see it more, like you said, where they're going in 4th down in greater numbers. Yes. It's happening a lot more now.
Depending where they're on the field and all that, and then how much time they have they keep talking about it more and more, like 60-70% of the time when you're here and you do this, you fucking get a first down with a 4th and 1. Yeah.
I guess to me, if teams are going to, and maybe they'll want to keep doing it anyways, because it makes games exciting. It makes teams that are behind have the possibility of scoring like 14 points in like 2 minutes. So, and sometimes that's the kind of gap that there is between teams.
Um,
You know, they're down by 2 or 3 touchdowns or 2 or 3
I,
scores, and it gives these teams a chance.
I'm gonna just throw this out there, man. I went down that YouTube hole rabbit hole. Maybe the NFL's just rigged, man. There's a lot of channels dedicated saying like, why did this happen in this, or why did they run this play? But that's saying because the NFL is rigged.
You see that a lot after big games.
Mm-hmm.
You're like, here it's what do they call that when they don't throw the ball in time? Delay a game.
Delay again.
They're like, here's a delay a game where the clock is clearly zero. It's even like a second past zero, and they don't call it. They're like, why don't they call this? And it's just like it passes the refs. And sometimes I do think that stuff like that is on purpose. Sometimes I think it's human. So there's errors and there's human error and everything. So
like that.
I'm not sure.
Real quick, the game with Kansas City and Cincinnati, who's in the Super Bowl and Kansas City's not, when they rep you up to halftime, when they were like, just get the fucking points, and they went for it on 4th and 1, and then instead of running it, and they threw it at the edge, and it was just like bad play calling, and they stopped them, and all the momentum went to Cincinnati. And you talked about after the game leading up there, after that, they're talking about they can't believe Kansas City did that and how they stopped them. They're like, see, they're beatable, and that changed the whole momentum of the game.
Yeah, no, I think stuff like that for sure exists. I mean, it's a possibility, but I think a lot of it also, until you start getting computers to figure out all this stuff for you, you just got humans that have a different strike zone than other umpires, and so strikes and balls are always going to be off slightly. You know, it's not always going to be exactly in this square. But yeah, I guess that's enough sports talk for now. Let's throw it over to Noel. Hey man, I know you went to go see Spider-Man No Way Home. That's the latest movie that came out from Todd Holland or Tom Holland? Tom Holland. Yeah. Let us know what's your thoughts on the movie, man.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. It's not like super highly rated, but I would rate it maybe somewhere between a 7 and 8. It's an entertaining movie. One of Marvel's better ones. Definitely tugged the nostalgia strings because I grew up in the time where the original Spider-Man was Tobey Maguire. So back in, I think it was 99 or 2000 ish. And so seeing him and Andrew Garfield, Andrew Garfield wasn't really my favorite Spider-Man, but just watching them all in the movie, it was pretty interesting. Especially because it was a chance for the family to get together. So that's kind of what made it special. I haven't gone to the theater in, I don't even know how long, dude, like a year or over a year. And
wow.
So it was cool to go to the theaters again and just be able to enjoy something like that.
Getting back to the original Spider-Man, that Tobey Maguire, when we were growing up, in the 80s and 90s, just to get that Spider-Man movie, like we knew, like through Wizard Magazine, the difficulty and the rights just to get for Sony to make that fucking movie was like, it was unreal. And then when they made it and it was actually good, a lot of people were shocked because just to get to that point, there was a lot of like rights and like Hollywood nonsense because Sony and Marvel, I think Sony paid a ton of money to get those rights. They paid off a lot of people. That's why even now Sony, who owns the Spider-Man movie rights, and Marvel and Disney, Sony doesn't want to give it up, and they're like, I know Feige made a deal and to get him to appear in the Avenger movies. It's still kind of like they're still fighting about it, I guess. And let's just say fighting. There's some internal strife because Disney really wants the Spider-Man rights back.
I think they realized just how big of a mistake it was letting it go, because at the time there wasn't too many options for comic book movies. I think before that movie there was probably Blade, which
Punisher,
but it wasn't that successful in comparison to Blade.
He-Man, Masters of the Universe.
Oh yeah, that's definitely the 80s. That's old.
That's not Marvel, man.
All right, I'm just saying superhero movies.
Like, did you see the Bloodshot movie? They made that movie, right, with Vin Diesel, or no?
Oh
Yeah, but that
man.
was after Spider-Man. Yeah.
But that sucked, right? Nobody watched it.
Yeah, I think people didn't like the fact that they couldn't get the original actor that played it because there was like
Uh
a fan made one made with the former Power Ranger,
huh.
Jason David Frank is his name.
Oh,
He
the Red Power Ranger,
he was red at
or
one
was it?
point, but it was the green
Okay.
one originally.
Oh, all
So
right, right.
yeah, he was the green, white, red, and then black. Like he's been in the show for a long time, but yeah. So he played Bloodshot in a movie, like a full length movie, and
Like a fan
then
film.
kinda. I mean, most films are
Sp-
fan films, I guess. Like if you really think
Like a
about
low
it,
budget
technically.
film.
Yeah, it was one of those like lower budget, but it still did pretty well. Like in terms of like reception, a lot of people liked it. And then when they made Bloodshot like big budget and they got Vin Diesel, I think a lot of people just got upset about it. But yeah, going back to Spider-Man, it was a successful movie, man. It made so much money. This new one's No Way Home, and it opens up. I think if I'm not mistaken, I think they're gonna do another three movies with Spider-Man. They're gonna
Damn.
also gonna do Morbius, and then there's another movie they're gonna do some multiverse type shit.
The
And
Sinister Six thing, I think Sony really is pushing for. That's with the Venom and Morbius and all that other stuff.
yeah, yeah, let's see what happens, man.
Yeah, I saw it with you. We went to go see it as a family, like you said, and it was, man, it was good. It wasn't great. I think there was some points that maybe I would change, but yeah, I definitely give it like a 7 or 8 as well. I thought it was pretty good.
Yeah, it's gonna hold up, and in like 10 years from now, it'll still be entertaining the way it was, when we first saw it. But it's one of those where you're right. Like Marvel has this way of making like more movies like formulaic, and like I've seen enough Marvel movies that like the newer ones I don't even have like a desire to watch. Really, what got me to watch Spider-Man is it's my favorite character. But for example, the new movie they came out with, The Eternals, I've tried to watch it like 3 different times. It's so freaking hard, bro. Like I have it ready to go and watch, and I can't get into it. It just I feel like that was just the cash grab. Like they just really just put it out there really quick to make money. And
Yeah,
yeah,
to be
well,
honest, I haven't seen the internals or that other one, the Japanese one or Chinese one. What's that
Shang-Chi.
one? Yeah, I haven't seen that one either, so I'm not sure. It just doesn't call out to me. I don't know if it's because they're not as known characters, but yeah, you're right.
I get that, yeah, for sure, I get it. But Shang-Chi, I would recommend to you mainly from the fact that, like, from what I know about you, you're into martial arts and stuff like that. At
Right.
least growing up, you watched a lot of those movies. So I think you could respect Shang-Chi as a martial arts movie, even if you don't really like it as a Marvel movie. Um,
Okay.
but yeah, I mean that's pretty much all I got to say about Spider-Man. I don't want to give any spoilers or anything, so people should go out and watch it. And yeah, I'm looking forward to see Tom Holland, continue to grow in that role. He said he was done, but I think they gave him like a offer he couldn't refuse because it looks like there's gonna be 2 or 3 more movies on the way. So
Right.
one other thing I wanted to say is I got my parents into watching Breaking Bad. I don't know if you guys ever
What?
saw that show.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, Breaking Bad is one of my all-time favorite shows. Definitely top 10 of all time. And it's just such an interesting, dramatic, like all over the place show that I told my mom because she would hear me like listening to it, right? And she would ask me like, "Hey, what is that you're watching?" And I told her, I'm like, "Yeah, look, it's this cartel and shit." And the reason she was curious is because there's an episode where there's like a banda that's playing, and they're playing a song about Walter White, about Heisenberg, and how he's dead but he doesn't know it because the cartel is pretty much gonna put a hit on him. And so when my mom heard that song, she's like, "Well, what are you watching? What is that?" She'd never hear me watching anything in like Spanish, right? And so I told her, I'm like, "Yeah, it's this and this narcotics, and this guy he makes it, and he's a chemist, and blah blah blah." I didn't want to give out too much info. I just wanted her to kind of get the idea. And she's like, "Oh, okay." I'm like, "Yeah, it's my favorite show, like pretty much of all time." And she's like, "Oh, well, let me see it." So I gave her a few episodes, and it was like 2 or 3 episodes, and she got hooked, and she wanted the rest of it. So I got her like season 2 and season 1, and she's on season 2 already, like halfway through it. and they're loving it, man. I was shocked.
Wow, holy moly! I know my dad likes kind of actiony movies. He likes that Charles Bronson stuff, but this is more dramatic, man. You really got to pay attention to the drama. So, man, surprising that they're into it.
Yeah, it's see he'll miss a couple episodes here and there. You're right, Dad is more because he can't hear really well, so he mainly goes off what he sees, and if it's just a lot of dialogue, then he just gets bored, you know. So he's more of an action guy because he can't really hear well. He'll just see the action and he'll kind of put it together what's going on. But with this, my mom has to kind of like look at him and be like, "This is what happened. This is why he did that." He's like, "Oh, okay." it's, he's watching it, you know. He'll watch it here and there, a couple episodes with her. But one of the days that he stopped by to watch whatever my mom was watching, she was on episode, I think it was like 2 or 3 of season 2. And right off the get go, like it starts off like fucking guns blazing, people getting like murdered and shit like that. And my dad's like, "Oh damn, like I want to see what's going on." Some guy gets his head crushed in an ATM, and it was just insane, dude. It is insane. And I told my mom like, if you like it now, get ready because it gets better and better and better. It just keeps amping up. And so yeah, she's hooked right now.
Yeah, I think Breaking Bad is one of those shows that if you watch it and don't miss an episode, they connect so well that it keeps you going. And then when you see something, it's just like, yeah, I remember that happened in episode 2, some little piece, and it comes up in episode 8 or whatever. And so stuff like that, they do it very well.
Oh, you're spot on with that, man. Like they build the story really well. And when I
And
watched
the
this
characters are, I mean, they're pretty unique. All of them have an integral part in whatever story that or what the narrative they're pushing. Like from the way Heisenberg changed from that first episode to the end of the show, it's pretty crazy.
exactly, yeah, the character building was like really well done, and
Hmm.
everyone kind of gets their chance to shine. They all get like their little moments where they build deeper and deeper. Skyler, the son, the DEA brother-in-law, like, and his wife is like a kleptomaniac. Like they all get their little chance to like you see the darker sides of them or the flawed sides of them, I guess you could say.
Right.
And with Heisenberg obviously being the main character and the main attraction, it's I'm sorry, what were you gonna say?
Heisenberg's wife, like from the beginning to the end, like by the end, I hated that woman, man. It was just like unreal to me. Like I came to despise her.
Man, I felt the same way. I was rewatching it when I got my parents to watch it. So I started seeing, like I got up to like season 4, I think, or 3 or 4, and I started hating Skylar.
Dude, I hate
But
her. I hate her. Yeah, that character was fucking just like a bitch and like 180, and she wanted to be involved, and then she's like, "This is all you. You made me." Like it was crazy.
she was very dramatic when she had no evidence,
Hmm.
and that's what made me upset. Because I'm like, even though we know that he's lying and he's doing all this shit, like she thinks he's cheating on her and he
Hmm.
didn't. Like it's so obvious he didn't. But she has no evidence, and yet she's like, "No, move out. We're gonna get a divorce." He's like, "What the fuck?" Like one day to another, like everything was fine, and then the next day after his surgery, because she asked him about his surgery or what his phone was, he's like, "Which one?" And he was like already on anesthesia and shit. He's like falling asleep, and I'm like, just for that, she's gonna make him get out of the house and get a divorce. I'm like, this lady's nuts, dude. But to be fair, she was like pregnant, all the hormones and all that. I think that's like kind of gives her a little bit of a pass. And there was a lot of shady shit, man. You got to admit, this guy, he goes from being like a straight laced fucking chemist
Hmm.
teacher, and then the next thing you know, he's showing up fucking like late every day, goes missing for like a couple days. He lies about visiting his mom. It's just like, yeah, there she has some reason to be upset, but I just think, yeah, she exaggerated it for sure.
No, absolutely. Yeah, and then like at least with the way when Heisenberg changes Walter, you he acknowledges it. It's like I like it. This is what I like. that whole metamorphosis into what he became at the end. Like, he fucking owned it, and she changed too. But then she was like, "No, fuck you. You made me do this." She wanted to be a part of it, and then she got like, whatever. She did a 180, and I'm like, "I know this is all you. This is all you." But she didn't have problems taking that money and doing what she had to do. And then like somehow it just became an issue one day.
Yeah, that's how it is, man. It's
Yeah.
yeah, she's definitely the unlikable character, and she even the actress even said it. She's like, it kind of made her mad that everybody was hating on the character, but she understood. Like, yeah, everyone fucking hates her. But yeah, dude, that's it's a great classic show. It came out in 2008, I think. So I do recommend it for our viewers to watch it if they haven't. Definitely back in those days, 2008, prices were a lot better on everything, which leads us to our article of the week. All right, so our article of the week here comes from Fox Business, and the caption and title says, Biden says inflation creating real stress at the kitchen table, insists prices will ease by the end of the year. So the article just kind of goes, it's like a summary, really. It's not really in depth, although it does provide some figures here. Essentially, just says that Biden's promising that by the end of 2022, the inflation will kind of ease away and prices will kind of either steady or drop. And it looks like here, he kind of just says that prices have been on the rise. He knows that the Americans are hurting, blah, 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 politics, politics, politics. And then it goes into talking about the actual price jumps. And so it says here, from the 12-month period ending in January, all the items index rose by 7.5%, the largest 12-month increase since February 1982, which is pretty freaking crazy.
Yeah, it's nuts.
Energy prices rose just 0.9, which is, it's not that bad, it seems like, for most energy since January, but they're still up 27% from last year, which is very high. Gasoline average cost 40% more than it did last year. Food has rose 7%. And the major component of the used car and truck prices are majorly increased at 40.5%. Shelter just 0.3, and but 4% over the year. So really, there's not much more to say about the article itself. It does give reason, that the pandemic has caused some of this, but I think a lot of it too is Biden's policies. And so even though he's saying that it's gonna, ease away by the end of the year, I think that's an empty promise that he can't really make. And just want to feel it to you guys and see what you guys are thinking about it.
Yeah, to me, I think the end of the year, man, that's a long time. We're barely starting the year. We're in February, and a lot of families can't last until the end of the year with these hikes. I mean, the cost of living typically goes up about 3% every year, or at least the last few years it has. And if you have your rent going up 4%, that means that you're losing money at work. If your food goes up 7%, that is astronomical, man. And I gotta say, I feel it. Me and my wife, we have a set budget for our grocery. We try to stay within our budget of what we want to spend every 2 weeks. We do groceries every 2 weeks, and it is extremely difficult. It's extremely difficult to stay in that budget now, especially with pricing going up 7%. It's a lot. It's a lot. It makes it where you do have to make cutbacks somewhere else or cutbacks in your food, and you just can't buy as much. It's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, they predicted. The inflation talk started last year, and the
Right.
Fed chairperson said, "Oh, this is transitory," and then the usual media like, "Oh, inflation's a good thing, and it only impacts rich people," and blah blah blah. And that's when I'm like, okay, this is some serious shit here. And then I remember this week, the week we're recording, uh, I listened to a couple of stock podcasts, and they were talking about that they're going to release the inflation report, and the rumors was it was going to be over 7%. They weren't sure how high. There were people were saying it might be 7.5 up to like 8.5. They knew it was somewhere between 7 and 9. They were predicting, and when the number came out 7.5, that impacted a lot of the stocks because the day before the announcement, stocks rose big time. Like I had a couple stocks go up like by like 10%, and then the podcast guy released something after. He goes, "Don't get used to it because the inflation number is gonna drop tomorrow, and then you're gonna see the correction." And sure enough, the next day, everything kind of dropped below what that was the ending of the day before. And so he's like, "Yeah, just we gotta wait for the correction to happen." And the other thing people are talking about is the inflation, and then the Fed's talking about raising the interest. That's gonna have an impact too, and on like loans and people trying to buy in homes because all this shit's connected. And right off the bat, people feel it, like Danny said, at the grocery store, and when you go out to eat and all that stuff. That's where you see the most impact when you look at the pricing at meat, milk, eggs, and that's where everybody gets impacted the hardest is at the grocery store.
Yeah, yeah, dude. I wasn't back in the day, like 10 years ago. I didn't really keep track of like grocery prices because, I had family that would do shopping for me, and I would just kind of either pitch in or I would just, bum off of them. But at this point, I'm paying every week for my own groceries and buying it myself and being very mindful of what I get. And I'm on a diet now, so I've been looking very closely at prices rising. It's incredible, dude. Especially if you go organic, you're looking at like 20%,
Yeah,
30%
eating
increases.
healthy is expensive. I mean, it was expensive before this, and
Hmm.
like eating right is like it costs. I don't want to say it costs money, but it does have an impact on your wallet. Then instead of buying like super processed food and all that other stuff, obviously there's a difference.
And then if you start talking about like fish, especially
Yeah.
wild caught, like
Mm-hmm.
I love salmon, so I get it every week, and I get wild caught salmon, and it was at one point, it was like $8, $9 a pound, which is already a lot of money, but now it's $15 a pound. So it's like, damn, dude, like it hurts. But
I mean, it has an impact on like you see the impact as you as one person, and people with families. You're a family of four, and people, ground beef, all that stuff. That shit's expensive, man. And then and like, well, I could buy a whole meal at Burger King or McDonald's for like 10, $15, and then they'll feed everybody, but it's just not real food. It's processed food. When I could buy for $15, I could maybe get what, maybe 5, 6 pounds of ground beef. I mean, it's and you still gotta make the meatloaf or whatever you can do, hamburger helper, all that shit, and that costs a lot of money.
Yeah, I think you brought up even a good point. Stocks, man, stocks are being affected big time. For people that are retiring this year, last year, maybe even next year, it's scary, man. I had some pretty big drops in my 401k, and I'm blessed that I have a little bit of money in there. But when you lose, a chunk of it, it's sad, man. It hits you. Luckily, I'm not close to retiring, so hopefully the market will correct and bounce back and start going up a little. But yeah, man, this thing is impacting senior citizens right now even more so because of the stock market.
And look at the other thing you're gonna see. The first sign for middle class people or people trying to do it is food and gas, right? And then the other thing is housing. Think about housing, and if they raise the interest rate, who the fuck's gonna be able to afford if a housing is worth like 7 to 10% more? When a house used to be like, let's say 250, do 7% more on that dollar. I mean, and they could barely get by, and then their jobs, you're not even getting that 3% that you used to get at many places. You're not even giving half of that. And then pricing is food's more. They're not gonna be able to afford the housing, and then they're just gonna be stuck renting, or even rent's gone up too. You see articles on that. The rent's super high, and then like it's
Property
gonna be
taxes.
harder on everybody, man, and especially the middle class, because those are people that class is probably living paycheck to paycheck. I mean, we've done episodes where the average person doesn't even have $1,000 like in their bank account, like because they're living check to check. And I imagine like when shit like this happens, when the dollar and there's like this type of inflation, which is it sucks. It's not bad, but if it gets worse, I mean that's really going to start impacting people of not of that don't have a lot of means. That's really going to impact them even harder.
Yeah, dude, times are gonna get tough. And then especially as we're getting closer and closer to automation, there's gonna be like a lot of jobs being lost due to that. I heard that there's a few places that closed down that like a White Castle that I used to frequent in Bloomingdale. When I used to visit my cousin out there in Bloomingdale, there's a White Castle on Army Trail and Swift. It's like a gas station
Behind the gas
slash like a
station. Yeah, I
yeah,
know where
you know what
that's
I'm
at.
talking about.
Across from the
Yeah.
strip mall. Yeah.
So they closed down, I heard,
Oh, man.
and like completely. And they were like doing business was booming, but the problem was they didn't have employees. And then a company I invested in recently, there's a robotics company that is coming out with this like robot that's called Flippy, and they're partnering with White Castle. So when I heard about this from my cousin that they closed down, I'm like, huh, I wonder if they're going to reopen and start using this automation, because supposedly, yeah, like there's going to be a lot of employees let go and replaced by these machines. And so, man, it's just crazy time right now. And then gas, dude. I don't know how much you guys paid recently, but I got gas a couple days ago, almost $4. It was like 3.79 for the lowest tier, for the lowest, the 87, I think it
Yeah, the
is.
lowest grade.
Yeah, it was incredible, dude. I don't think I've seen this prices this high since I think when Obama was in.
Yeah, man, it's scary, man. It's scary
Are
sometimes because
we
families are gonna have to start choosing what to buy and what not to buy to in order to stretch that dollar.
speaking of automation with I don't know if a robot can make a White Castle as delicious as a human being, but I think we had an episode. I think it was one of Danny's articles or mine. I don't recall. We had an article where a machine can make like 1,000 pizzas in an hour or something like that. You recall that, Dan?
Right? Yeah, I do
And
remember
then they
that.
were trying to test it out, but I think it only can make cheese pizzas, or I don't know what the fuck. It was somebody. It was tried being tested in Seattle or some goofy shit like that, and I'm like, I don't know, man, but I think that you might start seeing that pizza machine at like maybe like a Little Caesars, because the last time I've been there, I didn't even see a kid or nothing. Everything's like it's behind a brick wall of heated like warmers, and you type in a code to get your pizza.
Dude, that's how it is in Japan too. For a lot of things, they have like these vending machines that you can get like warm, high quality food. Like let's say you wanted like Taco Bell, you just go to this vending machine, you type in what you want. You want some crunchy tacos, boom, comes out, and it's like fresh and ready. So it's crazy the way technology is going. It is kind of worrisome though for the most of the people, especially when the government's trying to push like more and more socialistic ideas, and just crazy one on top of crazy one, like Biden trying to get like crackheads their crack pipes for free.
Oh man, Snopes fact checked that it's mostly false. There's also syringes in there, so it's not just crack pipes. Okay, that's what
What?
that's what the fact checker says. So it's mostly false. There's other shit in that fucking kit. Okay,
What
Man.
is that? Is that real, man? I saw
yeah,
Yeah,
it's
that.
dude.
real.
I saw it pop up on social media, and I just thought it was right wingers kind of shitting on
Oh,
Biden because I saw like a meme with that like salt guy, that guy that salts the steaks with like his pinkies and
Salt
shit.
Bay or whatever.
Yeah, I forget the guy's name. But it had Biden, and he was salting like crack pipes and syringes, and I'm like, man, what is Biden doing right now? And I just thought it was fake. I'm like, somebody's
So
just making fun of him because of his
it
son.
started with conservative media, and then there's a couple of mainstream articles, which is like, I think Newsweek was one of them that I read, that yes, they're putting a kit of smoking thing. I didn't say crack pipes, but it's something to prevent them from getting burnt in their mouth. And then the fact checkers came out, like always, with the fucking wording, right? Like, well, this is mostly false because it's not just a crack pipe. It's not the smoking protection. There's also syringes and other stuff on that kit. I saw 2 fact checkers use that shit where it's not crack pipe. There's other shit in there, so this is all bullshit. But yes, they are giving, from what I've read, they are giving them something to prevent them from like burning their lips or something when they hit it. I mean, I don't want to say it's like an actual crack pipe, but they are giving them tools for them to smoke it safely, along with other stuff like syringes and like cleaning stuff and gauze, and like it to help them, I guess, not get as sick. I mean, I don't fucking know, but it is true, and it's $30 million, and I'm just like, dude, just give me 100K or something. Give that money away instead of to this stuff, or I don't give it to education. I mean, like, this is, I don't get it, man. I just really don't understand it. I'd rather you give money to the schools. If you're gonna spend 30 million, give it to the damn schools.
Wow, nuts.
It's just one crazy thing after another, and it doesn't seem like it's gonna stop until this guy's out of office. And
I mean, I don't like, you want to give them the benefit of the doubt, but like, you know, with the inflation, the gas pricing, the shit with Afghanistan, the way around the world, and like he's mumbling and bumbling his words, and now you see videos, I mean, of his wife, the first lady, helping him up to like a press conference. I'm just like, man, it's like, I know he's older, but I don't know. And then you read articles that behind the scenes he's yelling at people all the time. It's just like, I don't know what the fuck's going on with this guy. And then he's just like, they told me not to say this or not to ask for this. So I don't know. I don't want to say, I just don't have the utmost confidence in him. Even if he was just like, he was making these decisions on his own, at least you could say, well, he made it. I don't know. I really don't know what's going on behind that curtain.
Yeah, calling people son of a bitches.
Yeah, but that, yeah, son of a bitch, inflation, eat a dick, and
and there's still 2 more years, man. Yeah.
Oh my god, and
He
well, I think
spent
the
so much
midterms
money.
this year, right? They're in November. People are pinning their hopes on the Republicans, but even the Republican, it's like it's fucking split in half. It's gonna be interesting to see what happens in November. You know, because you know, the average person is, you know, with this the inflation, going back to the article, and they're really getting hammered financially, and we're coming off the pandemic, and then you know, with the COVID fatigue, we were kind of told to do all this stuff, which we did, and then it kind of like worked and it didn't. I mean, I was even reading an article, Hopkins hospital, they said that the lockdowns really didn't do anything. I don't know if you guys saw that the 2-week thing and all that didn't really slow down anything. It was just kind of like they didn't say a waste, but it was like it didn't do anything. And you know, so people feel kind of misled, and you're starting to see that more and more on social media, and the big cities, it's not as the same sentiment as, but the rest of America, they're all like, we're done with this shit. And you're starting to see more people be vocal about it, and you're starting to see certain news media kind of flip the switch where like, why are we wearing masks? Why are we this shit doesn't really work? Or I don't know if they're getting ready to for the elections or something. See, we're with you guys the whole time or something, you know, something to that effect.
Yeah, they're gonna try to backtrack a lot of the mistakes they've made, but no one's stupid enough to forget it, and it's just gonna blow up in their face again. The whole thing, like, they've exposed themselves so many times.
Yes.
They said you need to wear masks, and then later on they say, oh, these masks are nothing but decoration. So it's like, well, what is it? Does it help or doesn't it? And then why? And then now that they're easing the restrictions, I think Nevada just recently released like the mandate on masks, so you don't have to have them. And you could just see the reaction in people. There was a thing on Instagram I saw the other day where kids were told that starting tomorrow you don't have to wear masks anymore, and everybody cheering. It's like you just told them you're gonna give them a whole like palace for themselves. They're cheering like they just got $1 million. They just won the lottery, and all they're telling them is like, yeah, you don't have to wear masks anymore. You can breathe now.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's been an interest. Go ahead, Danny.
I mean, I don't blame the government entirely. Obviously, they do got some blame because they're the ones that are kind of directing what people do. But I gotta admit, I mean, or I gotta say that COVID, there was a ton of unknowns. There was a ton of things that we didn't know, a ton of things the government didn't know, a ton of things the CDC didn't know. So a lot of it was best guesswork because when Junior gets sick and stares at me and says, "Daddy, what do I do?" and I don't know, I have to do my research and try to figure it out and make my best decision that I can with the information that I have. But I got to make a decision. I can't just be there and be like, "Well, buddy, give me like 2 weeks and we'll figure it out." No, he needs something immediately to subside whatever issues he's having. So I get it that the government made mistakes. I get it. CDC made some mistakes. And to me, some of it is a pass. It's understandable. But at the same time, they're the ones that are supposed to be the smart people that are helping the Americans. So some of it does go on them. I like 20% of it I forgive, but the majority I still say it's on you kind of thing.
I won't. There was one guy that the media touted is the fucking know-it-all. That's Dr. Fauci. And he fucking came out. His whole job is this shit with the viruses. He's the highest paid government fucking employee. And to me, that kept changing. I mean, I started shitting on him about a year ago. It started with the mask. Then he started pushing the vaccines. I'm like, well, this guy says the vaccine, well, maybe. And like, unfortunately, in my opinion, and like, none of that shit really worked. It's all coming out, and you're starting to see that on the news. The science changes. The science changed on this. And early on, if you question any of that, you're a fucking racist, or you don't know shit. And now even people are starting to question him, and more stuff leaked out. And then when him at the congressional hearings with him and Rand Paul going back and forth, he goes, "I am the science. I am the science." And I'm like, what the fuck? You question me? You're questioning science because I am the science. He says that he's a fucking man. And unfortunately, everything that I've seen through my eyes, he's fucked up a lot. I don't even know how. You don't see him being on TV as much as you used to with the last 2 years. So I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I just don't. I don't have any faith in that guy anymore. The CDC the woman, that doctor, she's had a couple missteps, but I believe I kind of like trust her a little bit more. But yeah, with Fauci, I lost complete faith in that guy, man.
Throughout this whole time, I just see more and more these like conspiracy theories that people used to laugh at back in the day. Mm-hmm. Like more and more of them are starting to look very real, very credible, and it's pretty scary. It kind of makes you feel like the government's not trying to help. It's just trying to maintain control and maintain its power, and it's kind of laughing at all of us like we're like sheep that are waking up and they're like, well, too late.
Well, yeah, and then like, don't go like. I know we're beating a dead horse, but like they were like, don't go see your family, stay home. And what they're doing, they're going to go renting out houses and traveling to see their families. Wear a mask. Where you see them, everybody around them got a mask except them when they're throwing these huge parties. And I'm just like, this is all BS, man. Like, do as I say, not as I do. And people saw that and they're like, well, what the fuck? And then when they were getting the vaccines on TV, and which was people to make people feel like it works, and then you started seeing people saying like, "Oh, look, this is BS. They're not even really injecting them." Have you seen some of those videos?
Oh no, I haven't seen that.
Dude,
I
I saw
believe it
like
though.
3 of them, and then they're like, "Yeah, we weren't really prepared, so we just did it anyway. We made it look like we gave them the vaccine to like a couple nurses." And there's even one with like some of the some celebrities too, where they made it look like they're getting the vaccine, but they're not. People were like slowing down stuff. Like it went really weird, and I'm just like, man, I don't know what to fucking think anymore. Like this is like it's crazy. And then you seen the videos where like the vaccine does this, and then that kind of then they started changing it a little bit, and people just said, "We're done with this." I was like, "Yeah, this is not good."
Yeah, man, inflation's a bitch.
And even that earlier on, they're like, inflation only impacts rich people, and this is a good thing for all Americans. I saw some of those articles, and now everybody's like kind of like we're talking about. That's impacting the bottom line of your average family and right off the bat, it's when people got to feed their family, and it's another form of I call it people call it a poor people tax, because that's who it affects even more.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So with that being said, we're gonna have to affect you guys, and we got to get out of here. We want to thank you all for listening. Remember, you can follow Freeform Network on Facebook and Twitter at Freeform Network. Send your questions and suggestions to ffnquestions@gmail.com. Tell us how the inflation is impacting you. If you're going to be able to go to the Dollar Tree, which is $1.25, and buy your meat there, you're still able to afford to go to a normal grocery store. Even Biden fucked that up. Used to be $1 for our whole lives. Now it's $1.25.
Oh shit.
And so send your questions, suggestions, and how you guys are dealing with that at ffnquestions@gmail.com. Visit our webpage, freeformnetwork.podbean.com. There we have all our episodes archived. They're all on there, plus our links to whatever application or platform that you guys like to listen to. You see Stitcher, iTunes, Podbean. I saw one, Deezer, Spotify, iHeart. A lot of them are being bought out or being morphed into something else. But in good old YouTube and Podbean, whatever you do, listen. How you listen to our consumer show, like, subscribe, share, comment. Do all that. That just helps us in the long run. So for Freeform Radio, I got Danny.
Yes, sir. Everybody, thank you all for listening, and go Rams.
You got Noel.
Hey everybody, thank you for being a part of this, and I hope to see you in the next episode.
And it's all good, Andy. You guys enjoy your week, and then we'll talk to you next time.
That was cool, Dad.